Okay, hold on. I'm just getting the recording going. So Chief, do you want to run the show?
Yeah, I've been talking here. I just forgot I was muted. So, okay. Everybody has to consent to being recorded.
Okay.
Okay, good. So, Mary, would you do the roll call, please?
Okay, SVFR directors, Director Green,
Here.
Director Hickson,
Here.
Director Burns, Director Polisi,
Here.
Director Spade,
Here.
Western Lane Ambulance, Director Russell,
Here.
Director Murphy, Director,
Murphy's here. He's muted.
okay,
He's muted.
Director Farnsworth,
Here.
Director Yesney,
Here.
and Director Webb.
Here.
WLFEA directors, Director Farnsworth,
Here.
Director Yesney, Director Hickson, and Director Green. Okay,
Good.
quorum.
Is everybody? Okay. We need approval of the agenda by Western Lane. Ambulance
Okay.
District.
Is anybody not in favor of the agenda? Speak up. Okay, I think we're set for the agenda.
We'll need a motion and a second, and then a vote.
Okay,
Sorry.
let's take a motion. Who'd like to make a motion?
So moved, Director Murphy.
Okay, second? We'll have to speak up, please.
I'll
Whoever wants.
second.
Okay, Larry seconds. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Great, thank you.
Opposed? No opposed.
Perfect. For SVFR,
Yes, you'd like to make a, can we get a motion to approve the minutes or the agenda? Sorry.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, is there a
I second.
All right. Jim Polisi seconds. Agenda is approved.
I got a vote.
No. Is there anyone opposed to not approving the agenda? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is approved.
Okay. WLFEA, same actions.
Yes, please, could somebody please make a motion?
I will make a motion
To
to
approve
approve
the agenda. This is Rick. I'll make a motion.
Okay, I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor to approve, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Now we have the opportunity for public comments. Derek, you're our only public member. Do you want to make any comments? He's muted. Oh, there he is.
No comment.
No, thank you. So approval of minutes from the regular meeting on March 26th, SVFR.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes, or is there anything in the minutes that anyone would like to change?
This is Polisi. I make a motion that we approve the meeting from March 26, 2020.
Okay, is there a second?
Page second.
Okay,
Can I make a comment just before you vote so we don't have to go through all three boards again? But I do have a suggested change for, oh, I'm sorry. I really don't. I just saw it. Never mind. There's one section where we use the word past instead of past, but I'll pass on that. Go ahead. Sorry.
okay. All right. Is there anyone opposed to the approval of the minutes? Please say aye. Okay, hearing none opposed, the approval of the minutes for the SVFR minutes from 3/26 are approved.
Western Lane.
Okay, Western Lane Ambulance District, regular meeting minutes, March 26, 2020. Any comments on the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes from the meeting in March.
Okay, Director Russell has made a motion. Director Webb has seconded. Any more comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion pass.
WLFEA.
Make a motion to approve the March 26th meeting minutes for WLFEA.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor to approve the minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Approved unanimously.
Awesome. Monthly financials.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. We're 9 months into the fiscal year, so we got 3 quarters down. Expenses should be tracking at 75%. I think the financials are looking good, so I have no issues to report. Since we are on a quarter right now, I have included quarterly reports in all of the financials. And I did want to mention to Directors Polisi and Russell that I will be emailing you PDF packets of the bank statements. We are a couple months behind due to our current situation, but I have them all scanned. I will email them to you for your approval, and you can just email me back your comments or your approval.
Thank you.
Yes, and also Director Russell, I have met with Director Polisi on the SVFR financials, but I have yet to connect with you, and I apologize for that. So moving forward, I will make sure that I reach out to you the week, the week of the board meeting, so we can have a discussion over the phone and answer any of the questions you might have. That said, most of my time has been working on budgets. So again, I don't see any issues to report in the financials, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple of comments. First of all, I think, Dina, if I remember right, March of last year was the first year that we started running patient accounts receivable and changing them on a monthly basis. And so these financials are the best I've ever seen. I mean, they're comparative. The categories line up and look really positive. I just want to commend you in particular and staff and Chief for the work that's been done and the progress that's been made. They look, they're just great. To me, that's such an improvement in the financial information. So
thank you.
Kudos to you and your work. And it takes more than a year to get them comparative when you make a change. But these are really very good financial statements and very comparative.
Thank you.
I would just a comment too, looking at Western Lane, and I want to ask Chief and Dina this as well. Year to date, we have an operating income of about $459,000, and we'll be losing money monthly from here on out. And now that we have a monthly statement, I saw March has about a $90,000 loss. So if March is kind of a normal month for the rest of the year because we don't have much in the way of tax collections, it looks like we can expect possibly, barring whatever happens with the pandemic, to come pretty close to break even for the year. And we budgeted a $450,000 loss. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes.
That is, a lot of that's due to our increased transport revenue, which we hope to continue. And I've got a graph we'll look at later about that. But that we were estimating probably a 300,000 surplus for transport revenue over our estimated budget. So I think in the cuts we've made, I think that's really accurate. About 450,000, I think, would be good.
That's really great. Good to see. It's still, it's not enough probably to have enough to set aside for future equipment and fund the FERS, but it's a lot more reasonable than what we budgeted. So I'm very happy to see that.
Any other questions on the financials? There is no old business. There's one new business item for Western Lane Ambulance District. So I think I've told you before about how the city is going to put a crosswalk, a lighted crosswalk on that vacant property across from SCFR Station 1. To do that, they require about 62 square feet of our property, and for which they have offered us $8,400. I did talk to Andy Johnson about what the impact would be on that property, because we'll lose the main entrance off of Highway 101. He says that's very common for properties on 101 not to have access on the main road there. So he didn't think it would have any impact on the property at all. So they are asking that we accept $8,400 for them to take that 62 square feet. And we will need a motion to do that and a motion for me to sign the agreement with them if that's what the board so chooses to do.
Well, I could mention that generally during the development process on Highway 101, ODOT is loath to give you an access to the highway, and they much prefer secondary accesses. So even without the crosswalk, it's doubtful that they would give us a 101 access when we have access, on the side street. So we're not losing much. Does it actually infringe into the property much, or is it mostly sidewalk area?
It's mostly sidewalk. There is a map, I think.
There is.
Yeah.
I
You
saw
can
the
see
map.
it.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either.
I was looking at the map, not figuring out what it's trying to tell us.
It's that
Is it-
little tiny sliver. It's green on the page I'm looking at.
Mhm.
It looks mostly that it goes north-south, very little into the property.
Very small.
Is this going to have a planter in the middle of the highway like the others?
That I don't know, but probably.
Okay.
That's called a pedestrian safe haven.
Yeah, it's for it's for the school routes, trying to put these lighted crosswalks on every path that goes to a school.
I'll make a motion to approve the easement.
Okay, we have a first from
I'll second
Director Farnsworth. Do we have a second? And we have a second from Director Webb. Any further discussion or questions? Chief, I was going to ask, it's 40 feet, it says 46 feet in width. Is that along the highway?
That's north-south.
That's north-south. And then
That's
how
it.
wide is
46
How wide-
degrees.
Pardon?
I think that's 46 degrees.
Oh, it says land 46.00 feet in width.
Yeah.
On the permanent easement.
Well, it can't be 46. It's only 62 square feet.
Well, it could be 1.5 feet wide, I guess.
Well, that could. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's your normal crosswalk. I don't know many crosswalks that are 46 feet.
Oh, you're right. It's 62. Yeah, it must be real narrow. So, okay, that's just
I
what
don't
would-
think it matters if we can't have highway access anyway.
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, just one question. Where do we put the money when it comes in? I would suggest putting it into the PERS fund that we're trying to build.
That's up to the directors.
I agree with putting it in with the PERS.
Do we have a PERS?
We have a motion we need to vote on first.
Yeah, do we have a PERS fund? I guess, well, we have a motion, so let's vote on the motion to approve the easement, the right-of-way easement. We have a first and a second. Let's do, since this is a legal document, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Director Russell,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Yesney,
Yes.
Director Farnsworth,
Yes.
and Director Webb.
Yes.
Okay, and Mike, did you want to make a,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to put the net proceeds from the sale into the newly established PERS fund that we're working to
Second.
account.
We do have a PERS fund because that's where we put the 150,000 in from this year.
okay.
Second.
Okay, we have first and a second. Any discussion, further discussion? Okay, I'd like a roll call vote on that too, please.
Director Russell,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Yesney,
Yes.
Director Farnsworth,
Yes.
Director Webb.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the conclusion of new business. Staff reports. I'll start with my report. Just give you a COVID-19 update. We are starting to look at winding down the activity of the West Lane Emergency Operations Center, the EOC. We have yet to see an outbreak in the Florence area, so I think we've been pretty lucky. We're not closing it down yet. I mean, we still have our response capabilities in place. It's still active, so there won't be any lag if we do get a second wave, or we do get some positives, and we do start seeing cases. We'll definitely ramp things up again. But EOC has been working very well. The Emergency Operations Center has been working very well. I think the cooperation between all the agencies, and there's probably a good dozen agencies that have been attending all the conference calls, have been working together, been sharing PPE. So it's really worked very well. Along with that, we've been working with the union on a COVID leave policy. So the federal government says that everybody gets 80 hours of sick leave to address COVID-specific absences. And we were working with that. That's a federal requirement, but we're working. Luckily, I don't think we've had to use it. Well, we've had one employee that had to use a couple hours of COVID leave. But in general, I think we've been lucky. It hasn't impacted our employees. But we are working with the bargaining union on getting that agreement up and running. And for Western Lane, we have hired a temporary full-time employee. We have one of our employees is on an extended leave due to some PTSD issues. We're working with the state on treating this as a workers' comp issue, and from what we understand, it has been approved by the state. So we don't anticipate this employee is going to come back, but until we get it resolved, we'll just have that extra, well, not an extra employee, but we'll be replacing the employee on leave with a temporary full-time. We hosted a blood drive last week. It went extremely well. I was a little worried about having access to civilians into our facility, but access was very controlled. They screened everybody. It was very successful. I don't have the numbers, but I think they collected 25 units of blood. So they asked if they could come back in June. And since this one went well, I said, okay, so June 19th, if you'd like to donate blood, get on their website quick because they fill up. And then if you might have seen an article in the news this past week for our mental health crisis team. They were highlighted. I'm really impressed with how this program is developing, due in large part to leadership from Lori Severance. She's doing a great job. She's not a project manager, but she loves to get out there and get things working for this program. So that's been going very well. I've got a lot of good comments from Florence Police Department. They love having that mental health care assistance on a lot of their calls. And we have been seeing an increase in mental health calls. So it's lucky, I think, that we have this program. We're also getting a lot of interest from the sheriff, as well as State Patrol. They would love to be able to tie into this program. And that was our plan for year 2. We may try and get that going a little bit quicker. And just as a reminder, this program is 100% funded by the county. So it's cost us no additional funds. There's even some overhead that we're collecting, WLFEA is collecting. So that'll help defray some WLFEA costs down the road. And I think everything else, I think we'll be talking about in later sections for me. So Matt.
Thanks, Chief. Can you pull up the COVID 3-year call volume? And we'll start with that. Director Yesney had questions about that.
Okay. Does everybody see something?
Yep.
Okay.
This is to Director Yesney's question about our call volumes. And so the best way I could capture our call volumes was over the last 3 years from March 20th through April 20th, is the times that we've been really impacted with COVID. If you look at our patient treatment, it's down 11%. Our public assist and our patient treatment is up by 57% and 53% respectively. And that's a lot because we've been doing more stay-at-home treat in place versus transporting a lot of these patients per a temporary SOG. If you look at our transfer volume interfacilities, they pretty much have increased from last year to this year. The interesting data points that you look at for 2018 and 2020, we've been pretty consistent other than the drop in patient care. So does that help answer the question that you had, Director Yesney?
Yeah, I think going forward, the question was around how is COVID going to affect our volumes, and if we have any data to start looking at it. I know it's too early yet to really see, and things are going to change, but I'm sure that's kind of on everybody's mind, is whether or not we're going to see a drop in our, especially our paid volumes.
Yeah, but Matt, you may want to address that. I mean, we're seeing an increase in the calls that we get higher reimbursement for, and I know the government is working on getting us paid at a much higher level for treat and release. I know, Matt, you want to comment on those?
Yeah, working with systems design, Medicaid patients, which we can't just bill strictly A class insurance only patients, but they've authorized through the state Oregon Health Authority, we would usually get $50 roughly per treat, no transport, but they've upped it to almost $500. And we have the process in place now to actually capture all the patients. And I literally about 10 minutes ago seen an email from System Design Shelley Brewington. So we're still continuing to work through it to put the process into place to hopefully capture some more revenue. But most of these will be based off of Medicaid patient, and then there may be some financial hardships along the way that could be a result of COVID. If you'd like, I can continue this running 3-year call volume comparison and, keeping it from March 20th, and we just continue on. You tell me not to, report the data anymore.
What does the board wish? Any comments from board members?
No.
I think it's a great idea to keep it going at least for the next few months to see, especially maybe as we head back into like the fall season, to see if there's any sort of spike or drop as we enter the next flu season.
I think it's safe to say the anticipation is we're going to see a call volume drop through the summer with the parks being closed, the tourism's being pretty much shut down. Then even a lot of the people that do vacation traveling from even like Arizona up to in this area, there's not parks open to help house them, and that's a lot of our business. So with Roadie Days being shut down and also Memorial Day, I think that's generally 2 of our busiest weekends in the month of May. So I would imagine, just projecting forward, we're going to have a significant loss in definitely May, and then however long it drags out, it could be even worse.
So this past week, Jason Harkins at the hospital indicated they'd seen a 50% drop in revenue, which is the same kind of thing that Matt's talking about. Fewer visitors means fewer problems, I guess. And
I think they'd stopped elective surgeries, and that drives a lot of revenue there.
One thing they did say is that unfortunately some folks are staying at home when they have stroke-like symptoms.
Yeah.
And that's trouble.
What we're seeing is true acuity. A lot of our call volumes, we've had some really pretty nasty calls over the last month. And, it's definitely kind of more of what an EMS system should be without like the repeat offenders, the chronic users. So it's interesting to see how this is playing in the call volumes. It has caused an interesting load and morale with the personnel as well. So I'll continue this and I'll include it to my operations report going forward.
Thanks for doing that, Matt. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. The operations report, just doing this a little bit differently. If we're not happy with it, by all means, let me know and I'll correct it. And the reports are in there, but I'm just going to kind of summarize the important parts, what happened over the last month. Of course, we know COVID is really relevant everywhere. Western Line Ambulance District is currently in the process of doing its recertification annually with the Oregon Health Authority. We've already completed the ambulance recertifications. We're waiting on the CLIA license, which is the clinical laboratories. It's a necessity for our license. And when we transitioned all of our mail away from the PO box with Western Lane, that address was not corrected. So we actually had to resubmit the CLIA membership. And so my anticipation is within the next month we'll be through the service certifications and no problems will be there. Our assigned service area, we did our quarterly reporting and extremely good data. Again, zone 1 was 97%, zone 2 was 97%, zone 3 and 4 were 100% response times. And again, when we match our numbers up to others in the county, we continue to lead that we're being the hallmark of EMS within the area.
Hey, Matt, can I ask, what's the target? Is it like 95%? Is that doing really well?
95 is doing extremely well.
Okay.
Some agencies have a hard time hitting 85, 90%. So, and they use these numbers in the county, and so we definitely slide the curve in the favor for everybody.
Great work.
The mobile integrated healthcare saw a total of 47 patients over the last month. When we matched it up to the previous February, remember we were intaking the new staff, so the data was training reports. The training division greatly changed over the last month, as you can imagine, with COVID restrictions. The Recruit Academy was postponed due to social distancing. We look to restart as soon as all those relax. Oregon Health Authority sponsored a really good online conference and actually have that conference again scheduled for this next Friday and Saturday. A lot of, there was 3 main conferences in the state that were canceled. So the Oregon Health Authority was able to do a virtual conference and it had over 500 people attending, and a lot of ours from both fire and EMS attended for continuing education hours. In the training report, there was one thing I really wanted to bring to the board's attention. Kyle Orozco, he had completed his associate's in fire science degree over this last month. So we can get to a more formal board meeting, we'd like to do the normal presentation that we would, and give him the respect of the hard work that he's done. Western Lane Ambulance and Sisal Valley Fire Logistics Report. The annual fire extinguisher service was completed with both districts. The main station had its annual fire suppression test and backflow testing over the last month. We transitioned the ATV trailer to accommodate the side-by-side and 2 ATVs. And what that does is actually streamline our sand dunes response with both agencies. We're not having essentially 4 pieces of apparatus responding code 3. Now it's just our rescue 10, our medic unit, and now this apparatus that we've made it more efficient as we're moving forward. Silky Communications repaired the antenna up on Herman's Peak, which we've been working on for about a month, and we finally had some good weather and everything worked out and it's all repaired. Many of the Sisal fire apparatus had routine annual services were completed. Overall crews are very upbeat, positive, again, but there is a different morale that we've been exposed to that I don't think a lot of people have seen or understand, and it's been interesting, and people still, they want to put their best foot forward every day. As we transitioned to the shift work at the fire department, the atmosphere and the morale seems to be very positive, change and upbeat. Fire prevention staff report. Although the prevention has again been temporarily transitioned to shift work, the division remains very busy with plans, smoke alarms, and installation inspections and public education. Community support team report. Like Chief said, that our MCR and our community support team have been very active with the COVID, and they've been instrumental in assisting the police with a lot of calls with the mental health. Through March, there was 50% drop in calls. However, April recent increase, again, presumably to COVID-19. Recruiting retention, as you can imagine, it's been really stagnant because of COVID. We canceled our program with the training. But I'd like to point out that last week's, like again, what the chief said, the blood drive was extremely successful, and that was a lot of BOA did the back end work to that. So you've seen the call volumes that I always prepare. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to address both boards.
Matt, this is Jim Polisi. I've got a few questions for you, and I'll start with community risk reduction. With Tony being on shift now, is he able to balance out the prevention respected items while he is on duty? And does he have any part-timers coming in to pick up on the days he's not working? Or is he just kind of, making it work?
I think the safe thing, and Chief, you can chime in as well, that what we're doing with this is just trying to make it work through the shift adjustments that we did due to COVID.
Okay.
When we get through, we're scheduled through the end of May, and if when that relaxes and we go back to the normal shift, or we continue going forward with shift work, Tony will be cycled back into his fire prevention job.
Got it.
He does have assistants that continue to work with him. The previous fire marshal reached out and actually wants to be a volunteer and help out again. So that's something that we're looking at. He is qualified to continue to do that.
Is he on disability retirement?
He is, but he's strictly looking at volunteer work, nothing else, not paid.
Okay. And would that be in-house only, or would he be going in the field?
I would refer that to Captain Miller on how he would want
Okay.
it.
And then while Tony is on shift, is he taking his crew out for company inspections, or are they just pretty much suppression based only?
No, he is doing fire-related activities and prevention-related activities.
Okay.
We just actually backflowed, hydrant tested all of drain trees over the last 2 shifts that he's been on.
So they're out doing hydrant testing?
And that particular, today they were out doing it.
Are those private hydrants, or are those hydrants off of a municipal water system?
Municipal.
Why are we doing their work?
I asked the same question. I didn't really get it.
Jim?
Well, I would sure like an answer on that, because we shouldn't be out doing somebody else's work.
I don't think it'll get done is the problem.
Well, then do we have any kind of an agreement with them that we do their work, they reimburse us?
We haven't. I think that's a good discussion to have with them.
Are we talking about the city, or are we talking about Hesita Water District, or both?
The city. Well, I don't know about Hesita. I'm talking about the city.
It's been that way for a long time, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Well, if we do their work for them, they need to reimburse us, because we don't own the water systems, folks. They do. All we do is use it when there's a fire. And I'm kind of the old school, where that if we're going to do somebody's work for them, they need to reimburse us, because it's not fair to the taxpayer.
But then we might want to be careful. If
Of course.
It's not our water, they could start charging us to fill our tankers.
Well, they can charge us they want, but the Emergency Services Act says that they can't. If we're using a fire hydrant for suppression of fire, the Emergency Services Act puts us in the clear. If they wanted to bill us, we could turn around and bill the insurance company who we had to go and put out a fire on their property. I've been down this route dozens of times, and I've heard it all. And it's like, okay, that's fine. You want to charge us, we're going to bill the insurance company. And we can calculate the amount of water we use. If we're pumping 1,500 gallons of water per minute, great. We'll calculate it out and we'll bill back. I don't want this to become a pushing and shoving. I just want to know that if we're doing another municipality's duties and we're taking away from our people and what their primary focus is, we should be reimbursed for it. That's all I'm asking.
You may want to talk with Sean Barrett, who was the previous fire marshal for a long
Okay.
time. And I don't know because I know we've been doing it a really long time, even before I
Right.
started. So
Well,
I don't know if there was some sort of a long time standing
Ned, a lot of people say, well, if it says fire in front of hydrant, then that means the fire department's responsible for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's not. It's a water system, whether it's public or private or an enterprise water system. Great, you know. Everybody wants to make sure that water systems work. Everybody wants to make sure hydrants work. But if our people are out there maintaining hydrants, flushing hydrants, doing water flow testing, which they should be, how many gallons of water per minute are coming out of the hydrants, what's the residual pressure, who's putting the blue dots down, great. If we're doing that, fine. But I would like to see an agreement to make sure that we and our taxpayers are being reimbursed for the work that we're doing for others. That's all I'm saying.
Then
And
on the other hand, though, Jim,
yeah,
should the city be charging us to use their fire halls to store our equipment and respond from?
what was the agreement when the consolidation happened?
Who knows?
Well, that would be something to look at too. I mean, we may turn around and say, guess what? The 2 city fire halls that the city owns, we may not need them anymore. Maybe we should give them back. You know, I mean, that all comes down to the standards of coverage, John, and I agree with you. If we're going to work into a reciprocal an agreement, then an agreement needs to be put down in writing that, hey, we'll do this for you and you don't charge us for this or whatever.
I would suggest talking with Sean Barrett before we approach the city, because he may give us some insight or perspective that we're not aware of.
Well, then maybe Sean should sit down with Matt and the fire chief and explain any previous agreements. And if there were agreements, I'd sure like to see them in writing.
Yeah.
You know, and then Matt, one other thing on the retention and recruitment. I appreciate what BOA has done, but can he put this into a little bit of a different format for us? Like maybe almost a matrix adoption table, like, hey, how many people are truly here? I don't care who came on board when he took over. I want to know who's there now and what are we doing for them? And if we're covering Swisswood and Mapleton, how much of our personnel time is being used in those districts? Now, and again, what I'm getting to is, are our tax dollar funded positions going towards other jurisdictions that are not being reciprocated? And I'm not being picky. I'm just trying to get a better understanding about what our district taxpayers are paying for and what we're giving to other fire districts.
Sure.
Okay, I'm just trying to see, like, hey, do we have enough personnel to do what needs to be done for the hometown before we go to our neighboring, you know, municipalities that truly don't have much of a firefighting force? You know, and Chief, if we're taking care of them, are we going into a negative financial status by taking care of them? Meaning, are we paying for them?
That's a good point. I mean, their call volumes are low, so it's not a huge impact.
Right. But the training and development?
Sure. And the big concern is that, I mean, all those areas are in Western Lane Ambulance District.
Correct.
So the ambulance is going out there.
Sure.
Do we let an ambulance go out there without an engine on a motor vehicle accident? So
no, we should never do that.
Yeah.
I mean, for the safety of the medics and the, you know, and I mean, well, I just saw on the news the other day about a head-on right outside of Mapleton that took a person's life, horrible as it was,
Right.
what kind of response time did the local fire authority have getting on scene and starting, incident stabilization, patient treatment? Was there extrication? Was the Western Lane ambulance staff properly, protected? Because they're working on an incident. We all know that, scene safety is important for our people. So, I mean,
So that's the dilemma, though, is, do we
where do
not
we draw
send
the
an engine?
line?
Yeah, do we not send an engine? But then, I mean,
No.
yeah, I would err on the side of protecting Western Lane personnel.
I would too.
Yeah.
If one of our medic units is responding code 3 into their area, I think morally and ethically that one of our engines should be going with them.
Yeah.
And we will go usually sometimes code 1, or we'll have them come code 3 until we
Okay.
find other resources are there. In that particular MVC that you're talking about, we did have an engine come in from Sisal Valley Fire. I
Good.
happened to be man on that call, and I disregarded them as soon as I heard Rescue 11 on scene that does have a water source.
Matt, was that water source from another engine, or was it a?
They have a
Wow.
hybrid. They have
Okay,
a
well, a fire hydrant?
No, the fire engine. It's
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Hydrant.
I'm having a hard time hearing here.
Okay.
Okay,
It was a Mapleton fire engine.
got it. Okay, and Matt, do your people on the EMS side train with those Mapleton people often?
Not as much as we used to, but we do.
Okay.
I mean, we do. We used to have what's called a quick response team, but we've transitioned away from the quick response team. COVID has definitely put a lot of wrenches in how we've been trained.
Oh, I'm sure. And the only reason why I bring that up is because I'm wondering, Chief, and the rest of the board members on both sides, is this not the time that we don't think about regionalizing our paid called reserves staff? I mean, we are in some very interesting times here. And if we're going to be losing people in other jurisdictions that we're helping, maybe it's time that we look to them to see, hey, do you want to join forces with us?
That'd certainly be a strategic plan talk or discussion.
Okay, I'm not trying to, dirty or muddy waters. I'm just trying to think of the future. Because God knows we don't know what's going to happen over the next, 24 to 48 months from now. I don't know. None of us know. But I would rather be ahead of the 8 ball than behind the 8 ball.
Well, that's one of the benefits of establishing the WLFEA is that if at some point we decide, or they decide, whether it's Mapleton, Swiss Home, Deadwood, to become part of that and have us help manage their situation,
Right.
their side, we can do that. So we got the door, they just haven't walked through it yet.
Well, and you bring up a good point. I mean, if our Western Lane Ambulance District is providing services for them, and we all know WLFEA, well, maybe a shared services agreement, or get them on board with us to be to the training and staffing levels that our people are. Because I mean, we have to look at consideration for our employees, whether they're career or volunteer, reserve, whatever. We need to make sure that they're taken care of, and that the community of priority is also taken care of. And we've got a peak fire season coming up that, from the intelligence I've been getting, it doesn't look very promising. They're talking about some severe dry lightning storms coming up from Baja California all the way up into Washington. So,
The director of police is confirming that you want us to look into the hydro testing and reformatting recruiting retention to current standards.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please.
Is there any other questions for operations?
No, not from me.
Matt, I do have just one request on the CST report. I don't know what code 100 and code 99 calls are. Could those be spelled out, or can you educate us a little bit about what those are?
Yeah, we'll do it both next time, but code 100 is they were found dead, deceased. Code 99 is that they were found to be viable, where we'll actually do the treatments necessary to hopefully revive them.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what code 100 was.
They were found deceased,
Oh, okay.
non-viable situation.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, office manager report. You're muted, Dina. Been there, done that.
All right, I'm here. So our new step up IT company is working out really well. They've been doing a good job handling our IT needs. They took over April 1st, and they've got a really good support system. Whenever we submit a ticket, they're quick to respond. And we had a strategic business plan meeting. Chief House sat in on it with me with our client success manager, whose name is Kiala. And we had that on Tuesday, and we went over a lot of things just to kind of see how we're doing to date and to plan for the future. He also provided a report that's in your packet. Now, if you have a PDF packet that Mary just sent out, this report isn't in there, but if you're looking at onboard, there is a report in there right behind my admin report from Kiala that addresses a few questions that Director Yesney had a few days ago for us. And that is he wanted information regarding protection from encryption and ransomware, knowing that this is a problem for governmental entities. And so Kiala provided a report talking about the backup system. Currently, we are still on the Carbonite, which was installed by LCOG in January, but they don't feel, this was one of the things that Step Up referred to as a showstopper. And so we are in the process of getting a more robust backup system installed called Datto, and that should be online here in the next couple of weeks. And in addition, we are moving towards a more advanced antivirus software, and then and firewalls are under active, at both locations are under active support. We have just implemented the 3 Western Lane supervisors, Chief House, and 2 of our admin staff to have email encrypted capabilities. And we are looking at moving towards multi-factor authentication for everyone on staff, as well as they've got a program. I've misplaced my notes on it, but Kiala and I were talking about a program that they can install. It's got a monthly subscription, but it's a really interesting program where they can send out periodic emails to anyone on staff with a link saying that, hey, I'm Walmart, click here, I'm gonna need your information, your banking information, and it's just a test to all staff to see if they click on it or if they don't click on it, and there's a way to report it. So it's just a very interesting program that they have that I think we will soon take advantage of. Are there any questions about that? If not, I will move on. We did have Laura, who was our part-time admin. For the last month, she's been working from home, but she just came back to work this week. So all of the admin staff are still working here at the station. And while she was gone, we were having weekly Zoom admin meetings just to keep us connected. And then the last couple things I wanted to just touch on were when I wrote up this admin report, I was proposing dates for budget committee meetings. But since then, we've confirmed Thursday, May 7th at 5 p.m. for Sayusla Valley Fire, and Thursday, May 14th at 5 p.m. for Western Lane Ambulance. And I did want to ask, has anybody, currently we just have the 3 budget committee members for Western Lane. Has there been any interest from anybody? Has anybody reached out to see if we could maybe get a couple more Western Lane Ambulance budget committee members on board?
Well, I tried to recruit my better half, and the jury is still out. I'm trying.
I've talked to 2 people, and one would be just great, had to decline due to just schedule, and another one is thinking about it. So I guess that brought up a question. If that person does say she'd like to be on, can we approve that person, or how do we consider that person, or do we?
Well,
So
typically,
we can have
the
her
board needs to appoint that person.
right, but we don't have another meeting before the budget committee, so.
Well,
You could do it at the budget committee meeting.
Okay, it'd be awkward if we decided not to accept that person.
That would be awkward.
So I believe Director Green had said maybe we should have a little review committee and have that committee. Maybe we could do that and process the person ahead of time, make sure they're viable.
Via resume or something.
Yeah.
we could always schedule a quick special meeting via Zoom. It's, you know, that would be easy to do.
Okay.
I would just send the resume to all board members, let them read it, then ask for an email vote.
Okay. All right.
Can we do that? I don't know if we can do that with a.
We can do that.
John's right. Yeah, no, you can.
An email vote?
Yep.
As long as the vote is directly to me and not a reply to all.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So it's just approve or disapprove, yeah.
Yep.
Correct. Okay, sounds good. And then I would like to propose Thursday, June 18th at 5 p.m. for a special joint meeting / budget hearing to adopt the budgets. So if you could mark that on your calendar and let me know if you have any.
And that's for both
Yes,
boards,
that would
right?
be-
Dina?
That would, we could probably just do both in one meeting.
What time?
5 p.m., June 18th. And then currently, right now, the board, the Western Lane Ambulance Board Practices Assessment is still scheduled prior to the May joint meeting at 4 p.m. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if they can do that via Zoom or if they are waiting till things open up to be able to do that in person, but I'll keep you posted on what I hear on that. That's all I have.
Did you want to go over those, the correspondence?
You want me to do that?
Sure. Or Matt?
I don't have it,
Read.
yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but there was quite a few really great correspondence. One of them was a $500 donation as well.
Wow.
It should be all attached into the correspondence of onboard. And then there was one, we assisted a family member taking a dog to the vet for end of life. And they sent us a thank you for that as well.
Yeah, those are always good to see.
Yeah.
It's really great to see those. I do have to say the second one, there's pictures of our ambulance and fire truck, and we better have a good capital reserve fund.
I saw that.
Is that what that is?
That's
saw
right.
that. And I was like, what kind of fire engine's that?
You know, they're better than I could draw. But that's really
Yeah.
cool. Congratulations.
That is cool.
No. Yeah, that's
Whoever
really great.
did that, my hat's off to them.
Absolutely.
Okay. Director
And
comment.
you know what? Hey,
You notice the ambulance took priority. We have 2 ambulances. They only got 1
I
fire
saw
truck.
that. I saw that, John. You know, that kind of brings up something. As we buy new apparatus, whether it's a chief's vehicle, fire engine, medic unit, whatever, it's really nice to always put a plaque on the inside of the door dedicated to, you know, a certain community group, whatever. And it kind of gives back to the community that because of you, we are part of this. So when we buy new engines, I recommend that we have a plaque put on the driver's door and the captain's door that says, in recognition to, I'm just going to use this as an example, you know, the high school district or the SPCA or whoever. You know, it's community.
How do you spell your last name again, Jim?
What's that?
How do you spell your last name again?
Why?
We're dedicated to you.
I'll make sure we got.
No, I don't want anything dedicated to me. I get enough dedications in my previous employment. No. Let's just say Florence.
So this is the opportunity for director comments.
Hey, Chief, Ron Green here. Just a question, and I know that it's not a budget committee meeting, and so we could take this up at that time, but oftentimes I feel that when we get to the budget committee meetings, much of the discussion that I would like to have is almost too late. And I'd like to ask the districts as to what economic forecasting, I don't know who that is, but if you could mute your computer, that'd be helpful. What kind of economic forecasting we're using to predict the likelihood of collecting revenue, tax revenue this next year? I mean, if we're thinking that, you know, I'll tell you from my perspective in the banking world that, you know, unemployment in Oregon is forecasted to potentially be 40%. And I know we have a lot of advantage in this community with being retirement with people with a fixed income from pension or Social Security, that helps. But I just think identifying, you know, we have our capital reserve we could dip into, we have our allocation for others, but a contingency plan if what we're budgeting is totally off.
Well, and we're going to talk about that during the executive session. I mean, that's a great point, and we need to come up with some sort of answer for that. But I think that is planned to talk about that this evening. Okay,
that's great. And I don't think we have to necessarily budget for that, but I think we should certainly have a plan. Okay, thank you.
I agree. Sure.
Chief, I've got a comment.
Sure.
On the apparatus replacement and budgeting for that, I know we've been putting money aside in the capital improvement. Are there pieces of apparatus that we couldn't have refurbished that could potentially save the district some money? For example, if you've got an engine that the chassis may be, you know, outdated or whatever, we don't pick the firefighting portion of the apparatus, you know, the body, and have it put on a new chassis to save us some money.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, because I know that that's becoming a big deal now, is to have apparatus, you know, refurbished instead of replacing. And it's not a permanent fix, but it's just something to help us through these next several years of, you know, economy downturn.
Sure.
You know,
no, I've done that in the past. And,
okay.
You know, it's on a case-by-case basis, but I think what we're planning on surplusing early on in the next few years are apparatus that are extremely old. I don't know if they'd be up for refurbishment, but no, we always look and see if that's an option.
Do we have any apparatus that could be refurbished?
Well, I think we're looking at, we want to make some Type 6 engines out of some pickup trucks. So I think in general, we're doing something like that. So we're giving new use to some of our vehicles that we have.
All right, good, thank you.
Sure.
I would just remind directors again that we had decided to cut off at noon on Monday before the board meeting, but anything you want to add to the agenda can be requested up to that time. So if things do come up, feel free to, I think, shoot them to Chief or one of us as board chairs, and we'll see if we can't get it on the agenda. So
Okay.
to keep the schedule going right, we decided to cut it off on noon on Monday before the meeting, just to have time to get everything together. So a lot of great questions.
Any other director comments? I think we've gone over all the future agenda business items. Our next regular joint board meeting is Thursday, May 28th.
So Chief, I have the script to read to go into executive session once everybody's done.
I think we're ready.
Okay, so following adjournment, the SPFR and Western Lane Board of Directors will meet in executive session per ORS 192-660-2D to conduct deliberations with persons designated to carry on labor negotiations. Representatives of the news media and audience members are asked to leave the room. No final decisions will be made during the executive session, and the board does not plan to return to open session tonight.
So we need a motion for adjournment unless there's more. Did you want to say something, Rick?
No, I was going to say the same thing. We need to probably.
Okay.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anybody need a break?
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe a minute or two.
I'm going to stop recording.